Muammar Gaddafi, the former Libyan leader, left an indelible mark on Africa as one of its influential rulers. Throughout his life, he constantly reinvented himself and is widely recognized for his advocacy of a United States of Africa. Even after 4 decades in power, Gaddafi maintained grand aspirations for his country and the African continent. The narrative of his downfall revolves around themes of love, money, and betrayal, yet the legacy he forged remains one of the most remarkable of the 21st century. During his reign, Gaddafi exhibited immense affection for a specific country, its people, and its president. However, it was this very president, whom he regarded as a friend, who ultimately betrayed him. So which country are we referring to, and who is its leader? The country in question is Uganda, and the leader who orchestrated Gaddafi's betrayal was none other than Uganda's own leader. In 2016, President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda wrote a letter criticizing the United States and the African Union for their intervention in Libya and the wider Middle East region. He expressed his view that the US and the European Union had no right to remove Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein from power. But why did Museveni betray Gaddafi? Before delving into the reasons, let's explore how their relationship developed and what unfolded that led Museveni to betray his once cherished friend. Gaddafi's relationship with Uganda did not commence with Museveni's ascent to power. Gaddafi had been a long-standing friend of Uganda, with their connection dating back to the 1970s during Idi Amin's regime. During Idi Amin's regime, Gaddafi provided extensive support to Uganda, encompassing moral, economic, and military assistance. Whenever Amin's government faced attacks, Gaddafi was the one who came to his rescue, sending troops and military support. However, this friendship and support were eventually betrayed, as we will soon discover. After numerous attacks and resistance against Amin, he fled the country in 1979 and eventually settled in Saudi Arabia. Following Amin's overthrow in 1980, Uganda decided to hold elections to choose its next leader. The election results did not favor Museveni, who, driven by his thirst for power, claimed that the elections were rigged and unfair. This led to a civil war between Museveni and the opposition forces. During this war, Museveni and his army faced a shortage of weapons and ammunition. Determined to secure victory, Museveni sought help from various sources. When he approached the US and the UK for arms assistance, his request was rejected due to his close association with Muammar Gaddafi. Consequently, Museveni turned to Gaddafi, the closest friend of Uganda. Gaddafi readily provided all the necessary support, including military supplies, which contributed to Museveni's eventual victory. Gaddafi continued to show support on multiple occasions, including during the Ugandan Civil War of 1986, where Museveni emerged victorious once again. After his triumph, Museveni's military received training from Libya, and he even named his secret intelligence agency after its Libyan counterparts. Gaddafi's love and support for Museveni were apparent in his frequent visits to Uganda, where he invested heavily in infrastructure projects. Through the Libyan African portfolio, Gaddafi invested in and acquired 51% of shares in Uganda's telecommunications corporation, Uganda Telecom, and 60% of shares in the textile company known as Tristar Limited. Moreover, Gaddafi convinced Museveni not to sell Uganda's unrefined oil to Europe and the West, promising assistance in building a refinery and pipelines to Kenya and neighboring countries. Gaddafi also made significant investments in Uganda's finance and real estate sectors, including the Tropical Bank of Africa, National Housing Corporation, Lake Victoria Hotel, and several other companies. It's important to note that through Museveni, Gaddafi provided funding to the RPF rebels after their invasion of Rwanda in 1980. The support included the transportation of arms into Uganda by the Museveni regime. Their friendship ran deep, which made the subsequent betrayal all the more painful. Let's also delve into Gaddafi's interest in the Toro Kingdom. In 2001, Muammar Gaddafi developed a keen interest in this kingdom situated within Uganda's borders. At that time, the ruler of the kingdom, King Oyomyimba, was only 9 years old. Driven by his profound affection for the kingdom, Gaddafi financed numerous projects there, including the construction of the Toro Palace. Gaddafi left a lasting legacy in the Ugandan Muslim community by making substantial contributions to the construction of a magnificent mosque with a capacity to accommodate at least 3,000 faithful. This mosque stands as the second largest in Eastern Africa. Gaddafi even playfully suggested to Museveni, during his visits to Uganda, that he should rule for life and questioned why he bothered with elections. During one of his visits, Gaddafi promoted one of Museveni's sons in the military from captain to major. In the 2001 and 2006 presidential elections, Gaddafi supported Museveni in his campaigns. Their relationship appeared unbreakable and immensely strong, but unfortunately, that was not the case in the end. So what prompted Museveni to turn against Gaddafi? We will explore this through two main factors: Western interests and Gaddafi's ambitions. As you might be aware, Muammar Gaddafi was a prominent figure whenever the idea of a United States of Africa was discussed. Similar to Ghana's Kwame Nkrumah, Gaddafi dedicated significant efforts to the pursuit of African unity. During a summit held in 1989, Gaddafi successfully convinced 45 heads of state to approve the creation of the African Union, which replaced the Organization of African Unity. For over a decade following this achievement, Gaddafi remained the most prominent advocate for this union. In 1989, he introduced the concept of the United States of Africa, envisioning a unified entity with a single currency and military. Gaddafi saw the African Union as a facilitator for his dream. Roughly 15% of the funds used to finance African Union projects during Gaddafi's reign came from Libya. However, this idea was met with apprehension by Western powers and certain African leaders who believed it would undermine their prestige, influence, and positions on the continent. The proposal sparked divisions among African leaders on the matter. Surprisingly, Yoweri Museveni was also opposed to Gaddafi's idea. It was unexpected considering the significant help Gaddafi had provided to Museveni, enabling him to gain power in Uganda. Gaddafi had invested heavily in the country and supported Museveni during times of need. So, why did Museveni disagree with Gaddafi's vision of creating the United States of Africa? Firstly, it posed a threat to Museveni's hold on power in Uganda. While he appreciated Gaddafi's flattery, Museveni had no intention of being ruled by another leader. It was either him or no one else. Secondly, Museveni's influence in the region had grown, and he had aligned himself with the interests of the West. He carried out military operations in countries like Somalia, serving the interests of the West and providing intellectual support to CIA leaders. He prioritized the interests of the West over those of his African counterparts. When the decision was presented at an African Union meeting in Accra, Ghana in 2007, Museveni vehemently opposed it. He feared that supporting African unity would create problems between him and the Western powers. He was aware that these powers had kept him in power and could remove him from office at any moment. Museveni also feared that betraying Gaddafi would result in difficulties in his military and financial dealings. He understood that resisting Gaddafi was much easier than resisting the West. Museveni's reactions accelerated the betrayal of Gaddafi. On June 13, 2008, during his son's graduation in the United States, Museveni expressed his agreement with Geraldine Jocelyn Fraser, the Assistant Secretary General of State for African Affairs. He stated that he did not see a united Africa as necessary due to linguistic and cultural differences. He further claimed that Gaddafi had bribed small African countries to garner support, making it difficult for them to speak out during African Union and other international meetings. Museveni also mentioned his concerns about growing tensions with Gaddafi, fearing an attack on his plane while flying over international airspace. He sought help from the United States of America, which he did receive. Gaddafi was not particularly worried about Museveni's relationship with America, but rather his popularity in Uganda. When Gaddafi made a surprise visit to Uganda in 2008, Museveni's government saw it as a plotted attack on the president. During a 37-minute talk at an Arab youth event in Uganda, Gaddafi shifted his focus and expressed his desire to work with traditional leaders rather than elected presidents to achieve his plans for the United States of Africa. In 2009, Gaddafi organized a gathering of African traditional leaders to discuss continental unity. However, upon learning of this, Museveni intervened and prevented Ugandan traditional rulers from attending the meeting. Museveni had convinced Gaddafi that the United States president at the time, George Bush, would lift sanctions on Libya and invest in the country if Gaddafi dismantled his weapons of mass destruction. After discussions with British diplomats, Gaddafi was informed that Museveni had betrayed him. This turned out to be Gaddafi's greatest mistake, leading to his downfall. Gaddafi lacked a strong nuclear weapon that could deter internal threats. Since then, Museveni has attempted to fill Gaddafi's shoes and champion African unity in finance and security. Although he possesses strength in certain areas, he lacks the charisma and financial power required to fully realize this project. Even if he succeeds, it is unlikely that he will receive support, as the same reasons that led to the West opposing Gaddafi apply to Museveni. In a speech in 2021, Museveni mentioned that the plans of Western powers were narrow, ironically referring to the same people he had betrayed Gaddafi to. The Gaddafi Mosque, which had been constructed in Uganda and named after him, was renamed 2 years after his downfall to appease the government. Museveni's only alternative would have been to avoid blackmailing Gaddafi, as he was the African leader Museveni feared most. However, when Museveni's time to relinquish power arrives, it is certain that no one will be there to save him. That concludes our video for today on the African leader who betrayed Muammar Gaddafi. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Before we wrap up, we kindly ask you to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to stay updated on our upcoming engaging content.